Donald Trump's tariff threats and the turmoil in Ottawa is having an effect on the dollar. This week, the loonie dipped below 70 cents U.S. This is for the first time since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. CBC's Anis Hadari looks at what a weaker dollar means for the economy.
Traveling Canadians say a dollar worth 69 cents U.S. isn't nice.
Just sucks. It's become horrible the past year.
Killing us. And it's just going down, 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 down.
I do remember one time it was at par, but that was a while ago.
That was more than a decade ago. These days,
well, the dollar is definitely on a tailspin.
Experts say it's about where to expect growth.
It always comes down to the economy. That is the number one biggest driving force of how the dollar moves. So if the expectation is that the U.S. economy and GDP will do better than Canada, money and investment will move there.
And tariff threats from Donald Trump may keep dragging down Canada's dollar.
I actually am worried or concerned, I should say, that it is going a bit weaker yet until we get, some relief on the tariff front or, some better economic news to help support the currency.
After the Federal Reserve cut interest rates in the U.S., Canada's dollar fell even more. A low Canadian dollar can make imports more expensive. Think fruits and vegetables from outside Canada. Though things sold or exported in U.S. dollars can benefit. And for tourism, visitors may get more bang for their U.S. buck.
Those that have U.S. dollars, because this is basically almost free money for them in terms of the increased margin.
Definitely something some Americans notice.
It's great. Clothes, Aritzia's 30% off. It's really good.
As for where the Canadian dollar goes next, there are forecasts it could drop even more to its lowest level in nearly a decade. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
So where does the loonie go from here, and what will happen with a new U.S. administration? Armine Yalnizyan is here with us. She is an economist and Atkinson Fellow on the future of workers. Armine, thank you so much for making the time for us.
My pleasure.
Some people see the loonie's drop in value as a political story as it relates to Monday's fiscal update and Chrystia Freeland's resignation here. But you don't think so. So why?
Well, just looking at the numbers, you can see that the resignation had a little bit of an effect on the dollar that day. The fall economic statement had basically no effect on markets. But the bigger effect on the reduction came the previous week on December 11th, when the Bank of Canada cut the overnight policy rate. And prior to that, the dollar has been dropping for quite a while now. And the question is not, is it political? Everybody wants to find a bad guy that they can blame these days. And politics are so polarized that you're looking for somebody you can finger. But somebody said in the clip that you just had that it's all about the economics, and it totally is about the divergence between the American and the Canadian dollar right now, which is happening with every currency around the world right now.
I'm going to get to the other currencies in just a moment. I just want to get a point of clarification. So if it's not Freeland, and if it is, you said, more to do likely with the rate cut, why? Why would a rate cut, for those watching who may not know, affect the dollar?
The more the overnight policy rate, the lending rate that central banks establish, diverge, and we are at a fairly large divergence from the United States, the more our dollar weakens. And it's not so much what the central bank does. What the central bank is doing is paying attention to what the economy is doing. And in the United States, the economy is burning a lot hotter than it is in Canada. Our economy is slowing. Theirs will too at some point. But right now it's burning very fast, which is why their central bank has been so slow to start cutting their policy rate. If they start cutting their policy rate too soon, inflation will not go down. We reached our inflation target, partly because our economy started to flag with a very restrictive policy rate. That means that the interest rate was too high for businesses to hire or to fire more people because the cost of doing business was just too high. And that's why we keep cutting the rate, because things are just slowing down too much. Unemployment is going up too much. And that's likely to continue because because of what's happening south of the border, as was mentioned, is the tariff threat is very real, and we will see how that affects the relative strength of the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar.
Could the Canadian dollar, in your perspective, then continue to drop?
100% it could. It depends on what Mr. Trump does, and of course that's his secret sauce, is keeping us guessing on what he's going to do next.
And how will a weakening loonie affect Canadians?
Well, we have a $3 trillion economy. Half of it goes to trade, and most of that trade is with the United States. We export 80% of our exports to the United States. The biggest export is oil and gas, especially crude oil. We also import refined gasoline from the States. So it's a two-way trade. And the thing that we import, 50% of our imports, come from the United States. And our biggest import in dollar value is cars, but we're very reliant on the United States for food prices. So as the dollar devalues, it becomes more expensive for us to get our food, our cars, our durables. We are a continental economy. We have developed that over 40 years. And so consequently, we're very reliant on things that we ship in from the United States, many of whose inputs we have contributed to on the process of being manufactured. So this is a very challenging time for Canadian consumers, but it's also a bonus time for American investors. A US dollar will buy, $1 US will buy $1.43 worth of things priced in Canadian dollars. So we've got a fire sale going on right now for our assets. It was mentioned that it's good for Canadian tourism. It's also very good for an American to take a look at what they can buy in terms of asset, whether that's real estate or a business. They're definitely eyeing what they can get in Canada. And, this threat that Mr. Trump has of making us a 51st state, whether we like it or not, might be happening under the guise of a very low Canadian dollar. It's quite problematic for us.
If Trump does implement his tariffs the way he's threatening to do so, will the value of our dollar slide even further?
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm.
All right, we will watch it all. Thank you so much. That was Armine Yalnizyan, economist and Atkinson Fellow on the future of workers. Armine joined us tonight from Ottawa.